I'm Christiane Amanpour here live for you all at the Grand Hyatt in downtown Manhattan. And you might be able to see the logo. That there, CPJ, is the Committee to Protect Journalists. And tonight is a really important annual event. It is the International Press Freedom Awards of the CPJ. And I'm joined right now by Afrah Nasser, who's one of the winners. She's from Yemen. And before I even say hello to you, I just need to say that when you listen to her, you'll realize that the whole point of these awards are to recognize and to reward journalists who've gone above and beyond the call of duty, often put their lives at risk, and often, usually, in incredibly authoritarian, dictatorial countries and those at war like Yemen. So Afrah, welcome.
Thank you.
You almost didn't even get here, right? Because isn't Yemen on the good old travel ban?
It is, and despite that I was Swedish citizen, I was still, I fell into the Donald Trump travel ban,
yeah.
And so after 2 times we were rejected. My visa was rejected. At the 3rd time, I was able to get to be granted the visa, thanks to a social media campaign that CPJ.
That's right. That we were absolutely determined that a brave journalist such as yourself, who had won an award, was not going to be stopped, as far as we could. We were going to make sure. So tell people, because, Yemen is almost the forgotten war, and yet millions of people there are suffering, obviously, and are enduring a rampant outbreak of cholera. I mean, it's truly terrible.
It's a tragedy. It's beyond a tragedy. It is a forgotten war. It is deliberately forgotten war. And that's mainly because of the lack of access for journalists to get information and be able to get Yemeni stories out to reach the world. So journalists on the ground are, subjected to many forms of oppression, whether they're behind jail or, being forcibly disappeared. And some of them are missing, but also international journalists find it extremely difficult to reach Yemen.
Yeah, because we need visas, and we're at the mercy of those people who hand out visas, and it's very difficult to get there as well. And I know, and you know, that unless these stories are in the media, whether online, whether on TV or however, it's very hard to get the politicians to pay attention and to seek ways out to stop this. So just tell me, what work have you been doing there? You're a blogger. How easy is it for you to actually report freely there?
Because of my work in Yemen and the restrictions that I was subjected to, by accident I happened to be in Sweden and I became a political refugee. But believe it or not, working in Yemen, in Sweden, about Yemen, as much as it's painful as being in a long-distance relationship, but at the same time I never felt as close as, ever to Yemen, while being able to get running water, electricity 24/7, and a fast internet connection, and all my family are still in Yemen, and sometimes I break stories to my people in Yemen on these social media because people are living in dark. It's like a harsh, living circumstances, and I was able to break stories for my family and friends inside Yemen, let alone of the world.
So how many people are connected? How many people are online? In other words, how deeply does social media and online penetrate there?
I mean, internet, in principle, it's a very neutral platform. Some can use it for propaganda, some can use it for, getting information out. But since I started in late 2008, there was about like 2% or 3% internet penetration in Yemen, but today there are about 26%. So there is a growing number of people using the social media, but definitely because it is harsh circumstances, I'm obliged to create new alternative ways.
So when you get up there on the stage tonight and you accept your award, what is it that you want the crowd here? And we are streaming for Facebook Live. The entire ceremony will be streamed and live on Facebook around the world. So what is it that you want to say?
When CPJ contacted me, it was not only to pay tribute to all Yemeni journalists, but also to put spotlight to what's going on in Yemen. I think my message today will be not only for international media to rethink and take this ceremony as a turning point to get them pay more attention to Yemen, but also for world leaders to stop watching Yemen with apathy and stand still while all these atrocities are happening.
You know, the children there are truly heartbreaking. I mean, we have seen, as I said, not just the damage done by war, not just the terrible cholera epidemic, but also, I mean, almost famine is stalking the land. And the pictures of the children, the mothers, you know, are almost impossible to bear.
It's tragedy. It's tragedy. Every time I call my family back home, my mom is busy whether going to a funeral or coming back from a funeral.
Really? That's her whole life now?
Yeah. Death has become the new norm in every household in Yemen. I lost track how many friends, how many relatives I know, relatives of my friends who just died because of the implications caused by the conflict. So it's a tragedy. As we speak now, every 10 minutes there is a child dying in Yemen because of malnutrition and preventable diseases.
Well, I really hope, you know, Facebook watchers, people who are on watching, and the people in this crowd will get a whole new view. We have a question coming, yep.
Rick asks, what does freedom of the press mean?
In Yemen. So, well, anyway, that's a good question that's coming in from Facebook. What to you does freedom of the press mean?
For me, it means the vital tool for any community to achieve change. Without that ability to speak up your mind, without that ability to express the change that you want to see, we will never be able to understand each other as a community and start to progress. So it has to be like food, like water. For me, it's like an oxygen that I need.
I 100% agree with you, and I think you've described it from Yemeni point of view and those countries out there. I think from a Western point of view, here we are in the land of the First Amendment. You know, freedom of the press is a guaranteed constitutional right, freedom of expression, freedom, you know, to speak. And that underpins, it's a vital underpinning of a democracy. I mean, a free press.
You just wrote an article about this.
Yeah, I certainly did. I do believe without a free press, there is no strong democracy. And sometimes no democracy, usually no democracy. So a free press is a guarantor of a strong democracy.
I would say without free press, we will not have peace.
Yeah, I think that's true as well. That's absolutely true as well. Yeah.
Another question. Do you think social media has contributed to fake news?
That's a very good question. I'm going to ask you, because I have my thoughts about it, but from your perspective and also from what people in Yemen are hearing about the world, do you think, as the question asks, fake news, or rather social media, is contributing to this phenomenon of viral fake news?
Absolutely. When it comes to Yemen, the main problem of this is that there are, I'm witnessing the creation of propaganda in a very politically polarized landscape. There is a lot of propaganda, whether you call them in the US fake news, but in my, specialty with the conflict in Yemen, I see a lot of propaganda. And that's where, like professional journalists, critical, independent journalists have to come in to name and shame and really explain to us how that process is being.
I so agree with you. I mean, look, for the last year, fake news has become this bludgeon that has been used by politicians, really, against us. And when President Trump uses it, I'm sure you see it, and many people around the world see it, whether they're in democracies or in authoritarian regimes, they then say, oh my goodness, the US president is saying that these journalists are lying, they're fake news. So authoritarian leaders take that example, and it makes it much easier for them to harass the press, to restrict the press, to arrest the press, and, much worse. And we've seen that across the globe, and we're going to talk about it this evening on stage. But I think fake news, as you said, is propaganda, and it's incredibly important to remember that actually fake news is not used by journalists.
No.
It's used by regimes who are brilliant at propaganda.
It's a systematic effort.
Yes, to undermine the truth and undermine the facts.
Absolutely.
Politicians use it as a code for, I don't like what you're saying about me. That's one version of fake news as it's used. Another version, as I said, is just pure lies. Fake news are the kind of lies that you see these Kremlin-based, bots and troll farms. They've interfered in the Western elections, not just in the United States, but elsewhere. And not just in elections, but in our social world too. They are trying to create social divisions. They're bonding around divisive issues like racism and even Brexit in Britain. It's now been discovered that CNN did an investigation where these Russia-backed troll farms were using what looked like Brexit or EU branding and trying to sway the day on referendum day back in 2016. So this has become a real struggle, a real battle, and we have to win this battle for truth.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
How can people tell the difference between real news and fake news?
Another very good question. So to wrap our session, the question is, how can people tell the difference between fake news and legitimate facts?
As an independent journalist here, it's very important to pay attention to the indie kind of media platforms, because I'm sure these platforms are there really to expose a lie, and we need to support them.
Yeah.
We need to give them the as CPJ is doing for me. I never thought anyone, really, I never expected that I will be read as I am today. I'm a woman. I should stick to soft topics. Nobody will take me.
No. That was a long time ago.
Nobody
Not anymore.
will take me seriously. And then it was really difficult to, during the uprising in Yemen, it was more sexy to write about revolutions.
Yeah.
We only have one dictator, and then, we love to expose it. But writing about the conflict in Yemen really showed to me how this is like an inconvenient story that I need to convince my editors and other media outlets. And because of public opinion that really supported my struggle, I'm very open to my people reading me. As an independent journalist, I found myself having this big role and responsibility just to expose lies.
Yeah. So you've just used the word responsibility and role. That's obviously true for us journalists. So when you ask us, how should we figure out the difference between fake news and real news, I genuinely believe that you, the users, need to be involved too. You are stakeholders in this as well. We are committed on our legitimate, branded, well-known platforms to giving you and everyone the facts and nothing but the facts. You've probably seen CNN's new campaign, Facts First. It's something that I've been lobbying for, and in every public statement that I've made over the last several years, I've said it's about the facts without fear nor favor. And then people can decide. But you all who are now, subject to waves, tsunami waves of information and not knowing maybe where they all come from, it's your job now. You've seen now over this last year where there's been a real war waged against truth and fact. So if you want to be educated, if you want to be informed, if you want to be safe and secure and knowledgeable in our world today, you must make the work and the effort yourself. You have to do the legwork. You have to fact check. You have to go to established sites. You have to get several different, references for everything that you're not sure about. And only then will you be satisfied that what you're consuming is real. And I have to say, Facebook needs to be responsible as well. I was horrified a few weeks ago when in Congress all the big social media giants, the tech giants, went before Congress, and they had to admit that as many as 150 million users were exposed to fake Russian ads on Facebook during the election campaign. We now know, and it hasn't been talked about as much, but we have to be aware of YouTube as well. It's being used in a very nefarious way, and we have to be able to, slice and dice to know what is being used as propaganda and what is not. So again, we're all implicated, we're all stakeholders, we the journalists, you the consumers, Facebook, Google, all the others who are the big platforms. We're all in this together. Unless we do it together, we are going to lose the plot, and we can't afford that right now.
Absolutely.
I think that's it for our Facebook Live. Afrah Nasser, congratulations on your award. Congratulations on making Yemen front and center, at least for a while.
Thank you.
And thank you all. Thank you for consuming our Facebook Live moment with you here at CPJ, the Committee to Protect Journalists. And I would say, if you're ever tempted to make a donation to something worthwhile, CPJ is it. Tonight we have Meryl Streep, who herself was moved by what the work of CPJ means. Freedom and safety of journalists in our real world today. She's going to be here tonight giving her thoughts and presenting one of the awards. So thanks again for tuning in.